Imagine staring at a $30 million loss on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Like, just picture that for a second.
Oh my gosh, I literally cannot. I would be sick to my stomach.
Right, and knowing that the man waiting to interrogate you about it isn't just your unforgiving boss, he is your actual father.
Yeah, which just makes it a million times worse.
Exactly. And, with absolute terrifying certainty that he is going to use this failure to justify stripping away your life's work, like your entire identity.
And your inheritance. Right. I mean, everything is on the line.
Everything. So multiply that crushing, suffocating pressure by $1 billion, throw in the glittering, sun-drenched coastlines of the Mediterranean, and you have the psychological crucible we are plunging into today.
It is such a brilliant setup. I mean, it is so intense.
It really is. So welcome to the deep dive. Whether you are prepping for a major presentation and need a masterclass in high-stakes negotiation, or you are just desperately seeking an intelligent, utterly consuming literary escape, you are in the perfect place.
Oh, absolutely. Because today we are dissecting a world where power is inherited, vulnerability is a literal fatal flaw, and the architecture of a billion-dollar empire is held together by family secrets.
And let me establish this right out of the gate. We are operating as massive, unapologetic fans today. Like, I am in full fangirl mode, and I refuse to hide it.
I mean, same here. There is no holding back today.
Exactly. We are diving into the wildly addictive, high-stakes universe of Cleo Kensington's The Devereaux Dynasty series. Specifically, we are doing a massive structural breakdown of the first 3 books.
So that's Shadows on the Riviera, Midnight in Mykonos, and Secrets of Lake Como.
Yes. And it is just a phenomenal body of work to analyze, isn't it?
It really is. Because Kensington doesn't just write romance. I mean, she writes intricate corporate warfare, deep generational trauma, and these psychological character studies that just happen to feature incredible chemistry.
Oh, the chemistry is practically combustible. It's so good. So here is our mission for today's deep dive. We are going to unpack why these specific romance tropes work so brilliantly on our human psychology.
Right, and how the lush atmospheres actually function as a narrative engine.
Yes, and the raw, relatable character growth beneath all the bespoke tailoring. And hear me loud and clear on this is a strict zero spoiler zone.
Oh, absolutely. We will protect the endings at all costs.
Fiercely. Like, you deserve to experience the betrayals, the boardroom ambushes, and the romantic payoffs for yourself.
Totally. We'll analyze the setup, the psychological friction, and the sparks, but we are locking the vault on how these couples actually resolve their conflicts.
We are throwing away the key. So, to anchor us before we jet off to the Riviera, let's lay out the board. Who exactly are the Devereaux, and, why do they have such a stranglehold on our attention?
Well, if we look at the architecture of the Devereaux family tree, it operates less like a family and more like a feudal monarchy.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it.
Right, because the dynasty is this massive, multinational, billionaire hotelier empire, and it was built from the ground up by the late Francis Devereaux.
Right, Francis. The ultimate patriarch.
Exactly. And Francis was a visionary in the hospitality space, but he was also fundamentally ruthless. Like, he didn't just acquire properties, he conquered them.
He really did. It was corporate warfare.
It was. And his empire is currently being stewarded by his widow, Juliet.
Okay, Juliet is fascinating to me because she isn't the loud, table-pounding executive type.
No, not at all. She's very subtle.
She is the quiet, elegant power in the room. She's the matriarch who notices, like, the slight tremor in someone's hand when they hold a wine glass. She sees everything, but she holds her cards incredibly close to her chest.
Which is a survival mechanism in this family, honestly. Now, Francis and Juliet had 4 legitimate children. You have Victor, Josephine, Alexander, and Catherine.
Right, and then there's the illegitimate heir.
Oh yes, Fred, who functions as a massive destabilizing force later on. But for our purposes today, the narrative lens is intensely focused on the 3rd generation, the cousins.
Right, so we are looking at Ava, Tesia, and Lucien.
The new generation, the ones who inherited the wealth, but also inherited the psychological damage of the people who built it.
Exactly. And the architect of that ongoing damage is their uncle, and in Ava's case, her actual father, Victor Devereaux.
Victor, oh man. He operates out of Monaco and serves as the public face and the iron fist of the empire.
I have to interject here because Victor is such a compelling study in corporate psychology. I mean, he isn't just demanding.
No, he's terrified.
Right. He is obsessed with the concept of the Devereaux legacy to the point of pathology. Like, for Victor, his children and nieces and nephews aren't people. They are assets to be deployed or liabilities to be managed.
That is so true. It's chilling.
If you show vulnerability around Victor, he doesn't comfort you. He views you as a bad investment.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. For this new generation, ambition is essentially a genetic requirement, but they have to meticulously hide their humanity to survive his scrutiny.
Yeah, he is the warden of a very gilded cage.
Absolutely. But what's fascinating here, before we even touch the individual romantic arcs, is the underlying thematic mechanism Kensington uses to force these characters out of that cage.
Oh, the power of place theme.
Yes. It's a concept that binds all three of these books together.
The idea that the locations aren't just like pretty backdrops for rich people to stand in front of while they banter.
Exactly. In standard escapist fiction, a location is often just a green screen. The author tells you the characters are in Paris, mentions the Eiffel Tower once, and the rest of the story could theoretically happen in a windowless room in Ohio.
Right. It doesn't actually impact the plot.
Exactly. But in the Devereaux universe, the location is the actual product being fought over. It is the soul of the conflict.
Kensington writes real estate the way other authors write dialogue. It has intention and history.
It really does. There's a brilliant moment in Book 2, Midnight in Mykonos, where Tasia Devereaux is dissecting luxury destination trends in a boardroom.
Oh, I love this quote.
She states, "The mistake most luxury brands make is treating place as a backdrop. The location is the product. If your guests could be having the same experience in Dubai or Malibu, you haven't done your job."
Wow. Yes.
That is the philosophical core of the entire series right there.
Okay, let's unpack why that observation from Tasia is so sharp. Because it fundamentally explains the difference between mass market luxury and genuine historical hospitality.
Absolutely.
Think about it like this. You can walk into a sterile, hyper-modern mega mall anywhere in the world, Tokyo, New York, London, and you can buy a mass-produced, brand-name designer bag.
Right, you know exactly what you're getting.
Exactly. It's expensive, it has a logo, it signals your tax bracket to everyone who sees it, but it has no soul. It was made on an assembly line.
It is the literal commodification of status.
Right. But contrast that with wandering off the main tourist drag in Florence, Italy. You duck down a cobblestone alley, find a tiny dust-moated workshop, and you buy a bespoke, hand-stitched leather satchel.
From a family who has been working that specific regional leather for 4 generations.
Exactly, using the exact same tools. The designer bag from the mall is frictionless and identical to a million others, but the Florence satchel has a heartbeat.
Has an erratic stitch on the inside pocket. It tells a story.
Yes. And that tension between sterile corporate homogenization and messy, authentic history is what the Devereaux cousins are battling.
Which brings up the business mechanics of what their family actually does.
Yeah.
The Devereaux empire built its billions on the designer bag model.
Right, copy and paste luxury.
They acquire properties, gut them, and install their standardized 5-star corporate aesthetic. They want the guest in Tokyo to have the exact same Fred count sheets and minimalist lobby as the guest in Milan.
Because it creates economies of scale. It's incredibly profitable.
But it paves over history.
And to actually succeed in these specific books, the cousins have to unlearn that exact corporate homogenization. Like, they start out as these slick, numbers-obsessed titans focused entirely on profit margins.
And making Victor proud.
Exactly. But the power of place forces them to actually respect the dirt, the local culture, and the history of the regions they're trying to develop.
It is an ideological battle.
Yeah.
And nowhere is that ideological war fought more viscerally or with higher professional stakes than in Book 1.
Oh, Shadows on the Riviera. Let's travel to Monaco and Cannes.
We are diving into the world of Ava Devereaux, the eldest cousin, and her absolute battle of wills with Leonardo Rossi.
Set the geographical and business stage for us here, because the pressure cooker she is walking into is insane.
It really is.
Yeah.
We are on the French Riviera, specifically dealing with the Belle Epoque architecture of the region. And Ava Devereaux has been handed the reins to a massive project.
The Hotel Lumière.
Right, in Cannes. This is a sprawling, crumbling grand hotel that hasn't been updated in decades. It has incredible bones, but it is bleeding money.
It's hemorrhaging cash.
And Ava arrives on site with an impossibly aggressive timeline, a massive budget, and a mandate from Victor to modernize it in time for the Cannes Film Festival.
And she arrives wearing literal corporate honor. We have to do a deep dive into Ava's psychology here, because on paper, she looks like the classic Ice Queen trope.
Oh, totally.
She is wearing perfectly tailored, razor-sharp blazers. Her hair is completely controlled. Her schedule is categorized by the minute. But Kensington reveals early on that this isn't arrogance.
No, it is a trauma response.
It is. It's an overcompensation for a monumental professional trauma.
Exactly. We mentioned that $30 million loss earlier. That isn't a hypothetical.
No, it's her actual backstory.
Before this book starts, Ava spearheaded a commercial real estate acquisition in Chicago. She missed a critical structural flaw in the zoning due diligence. The deal collapsed, and the company lost $30 million.
And Victor, her father, has made sure that failure is the only thing anyone in the boardroom sees when they look at her.
He constantly holds it over her head.
She is carrying this crushing, suffocating imposter syndrome. She feels like one more mistake will result in her total excommunication from the family.
So she controls every variable she can touch.
Exactly. Because if she loses control, she believes she loses her right to exist in her father's world.
Which perfectly introduces the concept of the foil. The man standing directly in the path of her corporate bulldozer, refusing to be controlled.
Leonardo Rossi.
Leonardo. I love how these two are fundamentally designed to ruin each other's days.
Right. They're perfectly opposed forces.
Leonardo is a brilliant, uncompromising Italian preservationist architect. He doesn't build glass and steel skyscrapers.
Yeah.
He restores history.
And he takes it very, very personally.
He does. But more importantly, we have to look at the why behind his rigid preservationist stance. He comes with deep-seated trauma regarding luxury hotel chains, and it dictates his entire worldview.
The backstory with his father's hotel is so vital. It's not just that he prefers old buildings. It's that new buildings took everything from his family.
Precisely. His grandfather was a master stonemason, and his father ran a stunning historic hotel in Portofino that was built in 1897. It was their legacy. But 15 years prior to the events of this book, a massive, aggressive luxury conglomerate called Meridian acquired the Portofino property.
And we know how those acquisitions usually go.
Right. Meridian promised the Rossi family they would preserve the history. Instead, the moment the ink was dry, Meridian declared the building structurally unsound.
Which was a highly dubious claim, by the way.
Very dubious.
Yeah.
And they completely demolished it to build a massive, soulless modern resort.
It broke his father's heart.
It destroyed his family. So Leonardo views people like Ava executives from massive hospitality empires wielding clipboards and aggressive timelines as the literal enemy.
He views corporate modernization as an act of violence against art and memory.
Exactly. And the psychological friction here is just masterfully constructed.
It really takes the classic enemies to lovers dynamic and elevates it, doesn't it?
It does, because they aren't arguing over a simple misunderstanding. They are fighting an ideological war over their core values.
Right. It's a variation of the grumpy sunshine trope. But here, it's more rigid corporate armor clashing against passionate artistic defiance.
And they clash over the physical mechanics of the building.
Right.
She wants to rip open the core of the hotel, tear out load-bearing walls, and install a massive modern glass atrium to hit her deadlines and please Victor.
And what does he want?
He wants to painstakingly restore century-old terrazzo floor patterns and traditional plasterwork, which requires time she doesn't have.
So every conversation about a blueprint is actually a negotiation of their opposing worldviews.
Exactly. Which is why, when their armor finally cracks, it feels so earned.
Oh, totally. The chemistry isn't instantaneous. It is forged under intense pressure. And that brings me to the midnight sketching scene.
Oh, I love that scene.
This is one of the most beautifully written sequences in the book because it relies almost entirely on the vulnerability of silence. Walk us through the mechanics of that scene. Like, why does it shift their dynamic?
Well, picture this. Ava has been pushing herself to the absolute physical and mental limit. She is micromanaging 3 different demolition teams at once.
Right, because she can't let go of control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
During the day, there is this massive, chaotic teardown happening in the East Wing, and Ava refuses to leave the site. She ends up covered head to toe in this fine white construction dust.
It is literally coating her pristine, expensive blazer, the armor we talked about.
Yes, but she doesn't flinch. Later that night, well past midnight, she wanders the empty hotel and finds Leonardo out on the terrace of his temporary studio, working under a single lamp.
He is sketching the original cornice work, right?
Right. And in any other chapter, this is where they would start screaming at each other about budget overruns. But she is just so bone tired.
She's exhausted.
She walks out onto the terrace, still covered in the dust of her own ambition, and simply sits down next to him. And Leonardo doesn't yell. He just slides his sketch pick over.
Oh, my heart.
He starts showing her the lines of the building, explaining why the original architect designed the arches to catch the morning light. And Ava, this numbers-obsessed CEO in training, traces his charcoal lines with your fingers.
It is this profound, intimate moment of shared exhaustion.
It really is.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating psychologically is what they realize about each other in that silence. Leonardo expects Ava to be a soulless executive who only cares about spreadsheets.
Right.
But when he sees her sitting there, covered in plaster dust, refusing to abandon the site, he realizes her dedication is just as fierce as his own. She isn't lazy.
Oh, she's a worker.
And Ava expects him to be an impractical head-in-the-clouds dreamer. But looking at his hyper-detailed, mathematically perfect sketches, she realizes his technical brilliance.
They find respect before they find romance.
They do, and respect is the ultimate aphrodisiac for high achievers.
Oh, completely. But the real emotional gut punch, like the moment where the stakes become deeply personal, happens in the water.
The treading water scene.
Yes. We have to talk about the treading water scene because Kensington uses physical environment to strip away psychological defenses so effectively here.
It's a brilliant narrative device. The ocean is the great equalizer.
Exactly. So they are attending this incredibly stuffy, high-stakes corporate party on Victor's massive super yacht in the Monaco harbor at night.
The epitome of the gilded cage.
Yes. Ava is suffocating under her father's judgmental gaze. Somehow, she and Leonardo end up slipping off the yacht and dropping into the dark, incredibly deep Mediterranean water.
Dropping right in.
Yeah. They are treading water in the dark, miles from the shore, with just the lights of the yacht glowing above them. And the physical vulnerability of treading water in the open ocean mirrors the emotional vulnerability Ava finally allows herself to express.
But she can't wear a blazer in the ocean. She can't hold a clipboard.
Exactly. She is entirely unarmored. And in the dark, she finally confesses her deepest shame to him. She tells him about the $30 million failure in Chicago.
It's such a huge admission for her.
It really is. She admits that she knows her father uses approval as a weapon, and she confesses her crushing fear that Victor will never truly trust her judgment again.
She bears it all.
She tells Leonardo flat out that this renovation isn't just a hotel project. It is her redemption. It is her final chance to prove she deserves her last name.
And if we look at how that confession functions, it completely shatters Leonardo's perception of her.
Because he thought she was an oppressor.
Exactly. In that moment, he realizes she is actually a captive. She's in a corporate drone looking for profit margins. She is a daughter carrying the unimaginable weight of generational expectation, trying to survive a father who views her as a failing asset.
It completely aligns their motivations.
It does. He decides to help her save the hotel, not just for the building's sake, but for her sake.
It is breathtaking. But we promised no spoilers, and we have to tease the absolute chaos that threatens to tear them apart.
Oh, the external threats.
Right. Because just as they align, the external threats close in. We have corporate sabotage.
And not just random sabotage. The rival group Meridian, the exact same predatory conglomerate that destroyed Leonardo's father's hotel in Portofino, is sniffing around the Cannes property.
Of course they are.
Right. There are sudden, unexplained delays with local permits, staged accidents on the scaffolding, cut power lines. Meridian is actively trying to bankrupt the renovation so they can acquire the Hotel Lumiere for pennies.
And meanwhile, Victor and Ava's Uncle Philippe are hovering like vultures, watching her every single move, just waiting for an excuse to declare her incompetent and strip the project away from her.
The pressure is insane.
It really is. The climax centers around this unbelievably grand, high-wire gala Ava throws during the Cannes Film Festival to unveil the restoration to the global press.
It is a make-or-break night.
Truly. Will it be a triumphant vindication of her vision in Leonardo's art? Or will the sabotage, combined with the sheer crushing weight of the Devereaux Empire, destroy the hotel and their fragile romance?
It is a masterful conclusion.
Yep.
The tension is relentless. But what I find really structurally interesting about this series is how Kensington transitions between the cousins.
Oh, the shift in tone is wild.
Yeah. Ava's trauma response to the family pressure was rigid control. She dug her heels in and tried to fight her way to the top. But in book 2, Midnight in Mykonos, we explore a completely different psychological coping mechanism. Hyper-competent flight.
Yes. Let's leave the heavy historical Belle Epoque elegance of Monaco and jump into the blazing, saturated, chaotic heat of the agency.
The atmospheric shift from book 1 to book 2 is like stepping out of a museum and into a nightclub.
That is the perfect analogy. It requires a completely different sensory vocabulary. Tasia Devereaux, Ava's cousin, has been sent to Mykonos to open a high-end, exclusive beach club resort.
And the way the location is written, I mean, the light off the water is so clean it stings your eyes. The bougainvillea is neon bright. The music is constant.
The wealth is loud and newly minted.
Yes. It is a volatile environment. Operating a historic hotel requires patience, but operating a Mykonos beach club requires adrenaline.
And it requires someone who can manage absolute chaos without blinking, which is why Tasia is so compelling. I mean, have you ever tried to cover up a mistake at work by just working 10 times harder than everyone else so nobody notices you're panicking?
Oh, absolutely.
That is Tasia's entire personality. I love her hypercompetence. Kensington introduces her character brilliantly. We don't meet her in a boardroom. We meet her on page 1 at 6 a.m, crouching behind a poolside bar cart, physically counting champagne flutes.
She ordered 60 flutes. The invoice says 60. She counts 48. And she immediately drafts a contingency plan.
Yes, it tells you everything you need to know about her need for control. She doesn't trust anyone else to handle the details. She manages everything from VIP influencer meltdowns to private villa electrical blackouts with terrifying efficiency.
But beneath all of that perfectionism, beneath the clipboard and the meticulous scheduling, she is running.
She is running so fast.
She has a completely locked away heart. She manages the external world flawlessly because her internal world was shattered years ago, and she is terrified of the unexpected.
Which is precisely what arrives on a sleek, black, private yacht in the harbor.
Yeah.
Enter Adrian Nicolaides.
Adrian. Oh, the tension in this setup is delicious. Let's break down the business conflict first, before we get into the deeply personal history.
Good idea.
From a purely corporate standpoint, Adrian is a massive threat. He is a ruthless, highly successful rival investor. He has arrived on the island representing a private equity consortium with the express goal of purchasing the Athena property.
The Athena is an aging, slightly rundown hotel sitting directly adjacent to Tasia's brand new, ultra-luxurious Devereaux resort.
Exactly. Adrian's business plan is to acquire the Athena, rapidly renovate it, and position it to directly compete with and drastically undercut Tasia's property right as she launches.
He is literally there to ruin her profit margins. But here is the massive, brilliant hook that elevates this from a standard corporate rivalry. Adrian and Tasia are not strangers meeting across a negotiating table for the first time.
No, they share a deeply entangled history.
They knew each other 7 years ago. He is the boy she spent a magical, completely unguarded, life-changing summer with on this very island.
It wasn't just a fling.
No. But their romance didn't just fizzle out, it was actively destroyed. The bitter, cutthroat business rivalries between their powerful families tore them apart.
The Devereaux executive team actively crushed Adrian's father's shipping contracts.
They drove his family to the brink of ruin. It wasn't just teenage heartbreak, it was corporate warfare that decimated Adrian's family legacy.
It is the ultimate execution of the second chance romance trope. And we should examine why that trope is so psychologically powerful for readers.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Second chance romance isn't just about missing an ex-partner. It is fundamentally about mourning the person you were when you were with them and confronting the person you had to become to survive their absence.
Oh, that is so insightful. When Adrian looks at Tasia, she isn't just remembering him. She is remembering the 22-year-old girl who believed love could conquer billions of dollars of corporate debt.
Right. She is mourning her own lost innocence.
Exactly. And the tension Kensington builds before they even lay eyes on each other as adults is a masterclass in behavioral characterization. Let's look at the yacht scene you mentioned earlier.
Oh, the yacht scene. So Adrian is on his yacht approaching the Mykonos harbor. From a business perspective, he has all the power. But what is he actually doing?
He is stalling. Like, he is completely avoiding the island. He is sitting on the deck, obsessively checking his financial yield projections for the Athena property.
He checks the spreadsheets 4 times in a row.
Yes. His business partner, Nikos, actually calls him out on it, pointing out that the numbers haven't magically changed in the last 3 minutes.
And if we look at the mechanics of a hotel yield projection, it calculates the anticipated revenue per available room against market demand. It's a static equation once the data is in. Adrian knows the math backward and forward.
He's not doing math.
No, he isn't checking the numbers for financial reasons. He is using the complexity of the spreadsheet as an emotional shield. He is a calculated, fearless investor, but he is fundamentally deeply terrified of coming face-to-face with Tasia Devereaux again.
Because he knows she is the one variable he cannot control. And when that variable finally presents itself, I mean, it is cinematic perfection.
It really is. They don't meet at a glamorous beach party or in a high-rise office.
No. It happens in this small, quiet, incredibly dusty, family-owned ceramic shop tucked away in a cobblestone alley in Mykonos town.
The contrast of the setting is what makes the scene work so well.
Exactly. They're both these polished, guarded, incredibly wealthy professionals now, draped in luxury brands and corporate authority. But when they literally bump into each other in this tiny, fragile shop surrounded by breakable pottery, it's like all the air is sucked out of the room.
7 years of buried longing, resentment, and heartbreak are compressed into a single sharp breath.
If we analyze their body language and dialogue in that moment, it's a brilliant study in cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
Break down the dissonance there, because their words do not match their physical reactions at all.
Not even slightly. They attempt to maintain their corporate armor. They speak to each other in these very measured, icy, perfectly polite sentences.
Right.
They discuss competitor activity and investment yields and market saturation. But underneath the sterile vocabulary, their bodies are reacting to trauma.
Tasia's hands are shaking so badly she has to grip her designer bag to hide it.
And Adrian's jaw is locked tight enough to crack a tooth. Their dialogue is saying, I am a successful executive, unbothered by your presence. But their physiology is screaming, why did you leave? Why didn't you fight for us?
And the internal monologue we get from Adrian during this interaction is so revealing because he admits to himself what he expected to find.
Right, he expected the girl he knew.
Yes, he expected to see the girl he fell in love with at 22. A girl who was vivid, quick-tempered, and burning with this immense fire she didn't know how to direct. A girl who was fundamentally a dreamer.
But instead, he is confronted with the woman she has become.
Exactly. He sees that she took all of that fiery energy or all of that heartbreak and channeled it into brilliant, practical, hyper-competent executive intelligence.
He realizes he isn't just attracted to a nostalgic memory anymore. He is deeply, profoundly impressed by her competence. He respects the armor she built.
He sees the empire she built out of the ashes of their breakup. But because this is the Devereaux dynasty, the past refuses to stay buried, and the external plot is ready to rip that empire down. We have to introduce the primary antagonist of this book, Theron Blackthorne.
Theron Blackthorne is a phenomenally dangerous villain because his motivations are entirely rooted in historical grievance.
He isn't just greedy, he is bitter.
Right. He is a rival resort developer on the island who holds a massive grudge against the Devereaux family, dating back to the exact same era of corporate warfare that ruined Adrian's father's shipping business.
He wants blood, not just market share. And Blackthorne has weaponized the one thing Tasia cannot control: the past actions of her own family.
Yes. He has uncovered a massive, devastating scandal.
He has obtained hard documentation proving that the Devereaux corporate development team, years before Tasia even took over the project, aggressively paid off local Mykonos officials to fast-track the resort's environmental and zoning permits.
It is a textbook case of local corruption in real estate development. The corporate team bribed their way through the environmental protections to build the beach club faster.
And the tragedy is Tasia had absolutely no idea.
None. She is meticulous, she plays by the rules, but the foundation of her resort is built on a crime committed by her own family's lawyers. But her name is on the marquee.
She is the one who will go down for it. Blackthorne's plan is terrifyingly simple. He wants to leak this permit scandal to the global press, trigger a massive Greek regulatory investigation, and have the authorities shut down and padlock Tasia's resort during its highly publicized opening week.
He wants to humiliate her and destroy the Devereaux stock price.
And here's the narrative checkmate Kensington executes. Blackthorne approaches Adrian to help him do it.
It is the ultimate test of loyalty. Blackthorne knows what the Devereaux did to Adrian's father. He assumes Adrian will jump at the chance to exact corporate revenge, to legally ruin a Devereaux property the way they ruined his family's ships.
Blackthorne needs Adrian's local political connections to ensure the regulatory hammer falls fast and hard.
It creates an impossible choice for Adrian. Does he align with Blackthorne, enact the revenge he has dreamed of for 7 years, avenge his late father's legacy, and secure massive profits for his investors?
Or does he betray his own consortium, risk his professional reputation, and choose to protect the woman he never actually stopped loving?
I am sweating just thinking about it. Will he choose the ghosts of the past or the woman standing in front of him.
The stakes are astronomical, and Kensington keeps you guessing until the absolute final pages. The heat and volatility of Mykonos amplify that pressure perfectly.
Which makes the transition to the third book so striking. Because if Mykonos is about the blazing heat of confrontation, Book 3, Secrets of Lake Como, relies on an entirely different atmospheric mechanism. We move from chaos to deep, brooding secrecy.
Wait, let me stop you there, because the transition between the cousins here is so fascinating. We went from Ava, who fights her trauma with rigid rules, then Tasia, who outruns her trauma with hypercompetence, and now we arrive at Lucien. Lucien doesn't fight, and he doesn't run.
No. Lucien charms.
Yes, Lucien charms.
Here, weaponized charm. It is his shield.
Exactly. Lucien is Josephine's son, Ava, and Tasia's cousin. He is incredibly handsome, eternally relaxed, and he operates as the family's slick problem solver.
He has built his entire reputation on the ability to revive difficult, stalled estate developments by basically buying local politicians expensive dinners, smiling his way through zoning board meetings, and bending the rules without ever breaking a sweat.
He coasts. He has never had to actually care about anything deeply because caring is a vulnerability.
And Kensington drops this character into an environment designed to completely neutralize his specific skill set. Let's look at the setting. Villa Serafina on the shores of Lake Como.
The atmosphere here is incredible. It is practically Gothic.
It is very moody. Villa Serafina is not a shiny, new-build resort. It is an ancient, sprawling, neglected estate perched right on the edge of the dark, deep waters of the lake.
It has cracked, faded frescoes, peeling paint, unlit wrought iron lanterns, and long, echoing corridors.
It feels like a place where time has stopped, where the ghosts of Italian aristocracy still wander the halls. It is heavy with history.
And into this stormy, deeply secretive estate walks Lucien Devereaux, wearing a custom Brioni suit, armed with a multi-million-dollar budget, and tasked with turning this protected historical monument into a high-end, profitable spa resort.
His business plan is ruthless. He intends to rezone the protected wetlands around the lake, dredge the shoreline to build a modern restaurant, and generally steamroll the heritage of the property to maximize the square footage.
To Lucien, the history of the villa is just an obstacle to be managed, or at best a marketing hook to be exploited on a brochure. He expects to smile at the local mayor, write a check, and start demolition.
But then he collides with Aria Bellini.
Aria is magnificent. If Lucien is weaponized charm, Aria is unyielding integrity.
She is a local operatic soprano, and she possesses a fierce, almost spiritual devotion to the lake and to the villa itself.
She isn't a politician he can bribe. She isn't a socialite he can seduce. She looks at his custom suits and his Devereaux money, and she is completely, utterly unimpressed.
Because she possesses something far more powerful than money: legal leverage and historical truth. Aria comes with immense secrets.
She has a hidden lineage that connects her to the deepest, darkest roots of the Devereaux family tree, specifically to a secret exiled brother named Etienne, who was erased from the family history decades ago.
And she wears an antique locket that holds the key to the villa's true legal ownership.
The friction between them is so satisfying because Lucien's usual tactics completely fail. He tries his slick negotiation techniques, and Aria just stares right through him.
When she produces a secret historical clause, signed decades ago, demanding that the villa be preserved in perpetuity for artistic usage, she doesn't just block his permits, she blocks his worldview.
And how does Lucien react? Because this is the crux of his character arc.
This is where I entirely swooned. When confronted with this legal roadblock, the old Lucien, the corporate problem solver, would have buried the document, hired vicious corporate lawyers, and crushed her in court.
But instead, he finds himself completely derailed by her genuine passion. She takes him into the estate's old, crumbling boathouse and sings, showing him the acoustics, showing him the soul of the building, and his slickness just melts away.
When the local heritage board and his own furious corporate development team demand he evict her, Lucien doesn't crush her. He actively defends her right to perform there.
He starts using his intelligence to protect her rather than to manipulate her.
Which forces a massive confrontation with the ultimate authority figure of the series. We need to talk about Victor Devereaux's role in this specific book.
Wait, let me stop you there because I had this exact thought while reading. Victor is intimidating in Monaco, sure. He feels like a standard, strict, terrifying CEO. But in Lake Como, he suddenly feels like a genuine Bond villain. What actually changes in his characterization here? Why does he feel so uniquely evil in this third book?
That is a phenomenal distinction to make. In Monaco, Victor is demanding high performance from Ava. It is toxic, but is rooted in a twisted sense of business management. But in Secrets of Lake Como, Victor isn't just a demanding boss.
He is elevated to represent the systemic, deliberate erasure of history for the sake of unchecked profit.
When Arya brings forward these historical protections, this deep generational connection to the estate and the lake, Victor doesn't just want to win a legal battle. He wants to annihilate her claim.
He sneers at her. He literally mocks her righteousness.
Exactly. He views the lake, the historical wetlands, and Arya herself as entirely disposable commodities. He tries to use his immense wealth to literally rewrite Italian municipal law, to illegally bury the historical ledgers, and to silence Arya permanently.
He is the ultimate embodiment of the corporate homogenization we discussed at the very beginning. He wants to pave over a soul to build a spa.
He is terrifying because he is so calm about destroying someone's heritage.
But Arya and Lucien have a legal countermove, and it introduces my absolute, without a doubt, favorite romance trope of the entire series. I'm practically squealing just thinking about it. We have to discuss Responsalia di tutela.
The ancient guardianship betrothal. Let's explain the legal mechanics of how Kensington deploys this trope.
Yes, it is the classic fake dating or marriage of convenience trope, but executed with this incredibly high-stakes, gothic, Italian legal drama flavor.
Arya and Lucien discover, through a local bishop, that the only way to legally activate the property's protective trust and permanently prevent Victor from seizing and destroying the wetlands is through a highly specific, ancient legal loophole.
It requires a symbolic, binding legal union between a bloodline Devereaux heir, which is Lucien, and the recognized local guardian of the estate, which is Arya.
They cannot just sign a contract. They have to enter into this archaic betrothal.
Right, and they have to do it publicly at sunset, standing at the threshold of the historic boathouse in front of the town officials.
It forces them to legally and publicly bind their fates together while they're still fighting this intense internal emotional battle with their own growing feelings for each other.
The psychology of the marriage of convenience trope is fascinating. Why do readers love it? Because it provides a structured container of safety. By declaring the intimacy fake or strictly for legal purposes, it ironically lowers the characters' emotional defenses.
They feel safe being vulnerable with each other because they can constantly tell themselves, this isn't real, it's just for the contract.
Which, of course, allows genuine love to flourish unprotected.
It is brilliant psychological trickery, and it leads to one of the most heart-tugging, sweep-you-off-your-feet moments in the entire book.
It happens during a quiet moment on the upper loggia of the villa. The storm that has been raging all day has finally passed. The lake is dark and still, and it feels like the ancient house is listening to them.
Lucien has to make his final choice. He can stand with his terrifying uncle, destroy the wetlands, and inherit the easy, wealthy path of the Devereaux Empire. Or he can stand with Arya, protect the lake, and declare war on his own family.
And he chooses the lake.
He steps completely out of his family's toxic shadow. He reaches for Arya's hand, fully aware that Victor's spies and the town gossips are watching them.
And he delivers this line that just gutted me. He says, "I'm going to kiss you on the terrace, and I don't care if the hedge applauds."
It is a wonderful piece of dialogue because it operates on multiple levels. It acknowledges the theatricality of their situation, the fake betrothal, the watching eyes of the family, the performative nature of their legal union, but it claims a moment of pure, genuine connection within that performance.
It's him finally saying, let them watch. The contract might be a performance, but this specific moment is real.
But of course, because this is a Devereaux novel, the legal battle is far from over just because they kissed.
Will Arya's hidden legacy, her connection to the exiled Etienne, actually hold up against Victor's billions in the Roman courts? Will Lucien have to forfeit his entire Devereaux inheritance to permanently stand by her and protect the wetlands? I am giving you absolutely nothing.
You have to read the book to find out how they survived the Roman legal system and Victor's ultimate wrath.
If we pull back the lens from the individual couples and synthesize what makes this entire series so incredibly addictive, it goes far beyond the beautifully described settings and the perfectly executed romance tropes.
Yes, the yachts are massive. The chefs all have Michelin stars, and the custom Hermes bags are meticulously detailed. But the atmosphere of extreme wealth isn't just set dressing. It is actually a crucible.
A very, very expensive crucible.
Exactly. The money is a trap. The characters are locked in a gilded cage built by Francis and maintained by Victor's psychological warfare.
The sheer volume of their wealth isolates them from normal human connection. It makes trust nearly impossible.
Every single relationship, even within their own family, is viewed through the lens of transaction, leverage, or manipulation.
Which is exactly what makes these books so deeply, surprisingly relatable to the reader, despite the billions of dollars on the page. Because once you strip away the private jets, the Monaco penthouses, and the corporate espionage, the core emotional struggles are universally human.
Think about it. Strip away the wealth. And who is Ava? She is just a daughter desperately wanting her harsh father to be proud of her, trying to figure out how to stop defining herself by her past mistakes.
Who is Tasia? She is a woman trying to step out of the heartbreak of her youth, using her career to prove she is competent enough to stand on her own 2 feet so nobody can hurt her again.
In Lucien, he is a guy who has coasted on his natural charm his entire life, who is suddenly forced to figure out what kind of man he actually wants to be when the easy path is taken away and the world stops watching.
The romantic arcs in each of these books don't just provide a happy ending. They act as the catalyst for structural life changes. Falling in love is what finally gives these cousins the courage to break free from the generational trauma of the Devereaux family.
The romance forces them to choose authenticity over appearance. It forces them to decide what actually matters when the money cannot protect them from their own unhappiness.
Yes, the romance is the wrecking ball to the gilded cage. Okay, before we wrap up this massive deep dive, we need to leave the listener with something to chew on. What is the final overarching takeaway? What should we be thinking about when we finally close these books and look at our own lives?
I think Cleo Kensington's novels leave us with a deeply philosophical question about the nature of how we build our reality. In a world, both in the novels and in real life, where information, influence, and money can buy almost anything.
They can buy politicians, they can buy silence, they can buy spectacular views, and they can buy historical estates.
But these books ask us to critically consider the one thing wealth can never truly purchase: authenticity. The power of place theme we discussed at the beginning isn't just an architectural philosophy about hotels. It's a metaphor for the architecture of our own lives.
Well, are we building our lives like the old Devereaux regime, focused purely on maintaining a flawless facade, on hoarding control, and on the sterile accumulation of power?
Or are we brave enough to build like the new generation? Are we willing to choose the harder, less profitable path, rooting ourselves in genuine connection, respecting our own messy histories, and fighting for the truth of who we really are, even if it costs us the empire?
Wow. Are we building a sterile movie set to impress people we don't like, or are we building a home with a heartbeat? That is such a profound, powerful question, and it's exactly why these books are so much more than just beach reads. Okay, I have to take over now because my fangirl energy cannot be contained for one more second.
Go for it.
If you want crackling, intelligent chemistry, jaw-dropping luxury that you can practically smell and taste, and characters you will absolutely fall deeply in love with while cheering for their emotional growth, you need this series in your life immediately. It is the absolute pinnacle of intelligent escapism.
It truly delivers on every conceivable level of the family saga and romance genres. It is masterful storytelling.
It is perfection. So here is your strict, non-negotiable call to action straight from me to you. Go grab your copies right now. Do not wait. You can find the first 3 books we discussed today, and you can pre-order the highly anticipated upcoming releases in the Dynasty exclusively at www.silvergravitybooks.com. Let me say that one more time so you can type it in. That is www.silvergravitybooks.com.
Trust us, you do not want to miss out on the Devereaux dynasty.
It has been an absolute consuming joy unpacking this world with you today. Until next time, keep reading, seek out the authentic places, and stay curious.